Hi, I'm Karen in the Woods, and welcome to my she shed. Today we're going to be working on a little project. Let's see here. We're going to head over here to this big, beautiful barn loom. And I'm going to be doing some warping today on this marvelous old barn loom. This barn loom has quite a history. I'll include the links below of what I went through to get this loom. So anyhow, I'm getting ready to warp it up. Warping it up means putting string on it so I can weave again. So I have this string already set, all of these tubes of rug warp on this rack. From there, I need to go through this device called a tension box. It helps hold all 24 threads nice and evenly tensioned to be wound onto this back beam. So the process is I'm going to put all 24 threads onto this little string that's going to help me wind it up between these sections. These little posts are 2 inches apart, and it's called a sectional beam. This allows me to put 24 threads here, and here, and here, and here, and here, in each section all the way down. I'm going to wind about 60 turns. Around this back beam, it's about 22 inches, not quite 2 feet. So about 60 turns will get me about, what did I figure? Anyhow, once I'm done winding it onto the beam, then I will take all the ends and tie them onto the previous ends from before. I've retained the previous threading and slaying of the reed, so that way all I have to do is tie on, and all the ends are kept in order by these little lease sticks. So I'll be able to exactly pull them off one at a time, tying them on. It's quite a process, but it's easier than starting over from the beginning. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring these threads one at a time up and through the tension box. So I'm going to put this camera on the tripod. Let's see here. Get it right into place so you can see what I'm doing. There, we'll aim it right in. So I have a little pattern worked out. I'll include that, a photo of it, right here. First thread I need is going to be the dark denim blue. So I'm going to go through one of these slits. I'm going to go over, under, over, and out the front. The deeper I push this peg, the center peg, the tighter the tension will be as I wind it on. Next thread is also going to be a dark blue. I'm going to put that in the next slot. There we go. The third one's going to be a dark blue. And the fourth one's a dark blue. Okay, now we're going to go with the wine color, or a burgundy color. Previously, I had made a how to warp a sectional loom on my Newcomb studio loom. That's available on DVD in my Etsy shop and on eBay. But I thought I would make another one doing this barn loom. This barn loom has a very interesting history. It was in a museum up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And they were condensing down from 3 buildings to 2 buildings, and they really didn't have room for it. And they tried for several months. Now I'm switching to light blue. for several months to sell it on Marketplace, and nobody wanted it. It wasn't absolutely in perfect condition. Didn't have these sectional beams. It was not really in weaving condition. Needed some love. And my friends Linda and Rosie, my enablers, kept pestering me saying, go get it, go get it, go get it, go get it. So finally, after 3 months, I contacted the museum and they were ready to put it on the burn pile. So I went and got it. I gave them a $100 donation. And a couple weeks later, a gal from the museum got a hold of me and gave me the intake information of who originally donated the loom. Lo and behold, the gentleman is still alive, in his 80s, and as a child, he sat next to his grandmother weaving on this loom in Ironwood, Michigan. Her name was Sanna, S-A-N-N-A. Salamaki was her maiden name. Kangas was her married name. And he sent me photos of her and history about her. And all that is in my blog post, which, as I said, the links would be down below. And I felt a real kinship with Sanna. And I decided to put this loom back together and get it working again. Okay, let's see where we're at now. We're doing pretty good. I may have to move these all over a little bit. Each one. So I have enough room here. So anyhow, I learned about Sanna, and she was an immigrant from Finland, and she had in her mind the loom that she would want when she got to the United States. And her husband was a miner, so I'm sure money was very near and dear. And I think it took her a while after immigrating here to be able to afford to have someone build her this loom. And a local craftsperson made it. I don't have the name of the person that made it, but it was made to her specs of what she wanted. So once she had this loom, she was able to help supplement the family income. And tragically, one day her husband passed away. Also, during the Depression, her grandson had come to live with them. And he remembers sitting on the bench seat next to his grandmother as she wove. He remembers winding rag balls. He remembers people coming and going, dropping off their rags to be made into rugs. Later on, as Sanna was an older widow in the area, she would rent out loom time on this loom, and she would let other people come over and weave on it and pay her for the string, for the warp. So other people that maybe didn't own a loom could come and weave up their own rugs. A lot of Finlander families had weaving in their history. So learning how to weave the rug wasn't the problem. Owning a loom was the problem. And incidentally, these are called barn looms. That's because usually they were out in a barn. And Sanna's loom was kept out in a woodshed. And you try to get all your weaving done as, oh, you know what, I have a crisscross thread here. Let's fix this. You try to get all your weaving done as weather permitted because these barns were not heated. Also, these looms were made to easily come apart with a couple wedges on each side that would hold the joints together, so you could easily disassemble it while it was already warped to bring it to the next family member's house, because families shared looms from family to family, farm to farm. And I don't know if Sanna shared So even though she was older, maybe not weaving as much, she could have people come over, because she kind of lived out of town a little ways. She could have people come over and catch up on the latest gossip and find out what's going on in town. Or people that would run errands and bring her out items, I would imagine. She was known to sit in her rocking chair on the front porch, waiting for people to pick her up to bring her a ride into town. And she would sing hymns on her rocking chair. As people would pass by, she would have her knitting on her lap and she would wave to them. And that was the extent of her life until she passed away. Later on, her family in Lower Michigan took the loom there for a while and wove on it. But then they went to donate it, and it seemed like nobody wanted a loom. They tried every museum in the UP, and finally the one on Iron Mountain decided to take it, and they've had it for, I don't know, 20 years or something. And now that they were clearing things out, they really didn't have a good spot for it, and that's how it came here, to be loved again. Okay, now I have all 24 threads through here. There's navy blue, burgundy wine color, light blue, hunter green in the middle, then repeat back out. So it's going to be a stripe pattern like so. The next step is to put these little bars back over so none of these threads hop out of these little slits. There we go. Got them in there. Now we kind of even off all these ends. And tie them in an overhead knot, like so. And now it's time to get started with the actual winding on. I'm going to just grab a scissors. Or did I set my scissors? Ha 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 ha. Isn't that always the way? Here they are. Got them. So I'm going to get my chair out of the way now. I'm going to straighten out the sawhorse and the warping rack. Cut off the excess. And we're going to slide this down a tiny bit so we're in line with the section that we're going to be winding on. This is called a lark's head knot. It's basically just a loop that cinches. We're just going to cinch right around the knotted bout. This is called a bout of warp threads. And this is a trick I learned long ago, to put little tubes of clear plastic air hose on the surrounding pegs to help keep these threads in and centered. So we're going to line it up. Come around one turn. Okay, this is where I'm starting. So that's where I'm going to put the blue flag. And now it's important that I'm going to count 60 rotations. And this is where I cannot get interrupted by anything because it will goof up my counting. We'll go around once. There we go. That's one full revolution. You always make sure these are evenly falling into that space without what's called snow drifting in either direction. Looks like I gotta go a teeny bit this way. Okay, now I'm going to turn off the camera while I do this so I don't goof up my counting. But right now there's 1. I'll go up to 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then again I check and make sure nothing's piling up unevenly, so we're looking pretty good. So I'm going to stop now and work my way up on my own counting, and then I'll come back. Okay, now I've got my 50 turns. That's what I decided I'm going to do. And now with the magic of blue painter's tape, we are going to tape across this bout. Before we cut it off. Tie a knot so we don't lose any of them out of the tension box. And here's all my ends. This keeps them from flopping around, keeps them in perfect order for when I go to tie them on to the old threading. So there we are with that one. Now we're going to leapfrog over these cords and wind this next section. And there we go. Oops, that cord got stuck in there. Usually I clip them out of the way, and I didn't this time. Should go do that before I start again. But again, here's my lark's head, which is a simple little cinching type loop. Put it through the bout knot of warp. Incidentally, I also have this little counter. My friend Rosie gave me this. It helps me. Goes right on my finger. And every time I go around, I hit the little button to count and then reset it back to 0 before I start the next section. So now I'm going to slide down a little too far and get ready to start the next one. So I'll check back with you again. Okay, that's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, okay. Looks nice and pretty even. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, we're gonna move over a teeny bit. Okay, and then at the same time, you double check all your little threads here. Make sure that they're, this one here kind of jumped over a little bit. Make sure that they're all in a row. Nothing's crisscrossed. Takes a little while to get this all set up. I'm sorry I don't have that part on the video. Okay, so we're up to 20, 21, 22, 23, oops, 24, 25. Everything's looking good. I also double check back on my tubes too, because we're getting towards the end on some of them. 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, we're looking nice and even and good. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. Looks good. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Check again. Everything's unrolling good. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. Looks good. We're almost done because we're doing 50 turns. 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. And around to 51. That's what I do. I just call it that. And now painter's tape, your next best friend. I need 3 little pieces. Cut just about the width of my bouts. And I reach underneath here and put the first one on before I cut anything free. I cut these free. Now, I'm sure to knot them right away so they don't get accidentally pulled out and lose my threading. And I can swivel it back around here. There's the one we just did. I double and triple tape these. Good morning. Now it's the next day. I ran out of steam last night. Now I'm going to tie the old warp, called a dummy warp, onto the new warp that I wound. These are the lease sticks that I preserved, excuse me, the previous threading on. So every other string, whether it's on harness 1 or harness 2, are all organized in order on these sticks. That will help me tie on my stripe pattern. So let's get to it. I'm going to readjust the camera here so we can get in close and you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we'll let the cuckoo clock cuckoo. Now, each one of these bouts up here corresponds with each section under here of 24 ends. See how each one corresponds? We'll move these out of the way so we have a little bit of room. Now, when I untape these and bring it forward, make sure you have all 24 threads with you, that you didn't leave one behind, tucked down in the edge or something. So you count here and make sure you have all 24 threads. Okay, and I hold that in this hand. And then one at a time, here, let me snip off my little knot here. One at a time, I'm going to take the corresponding thread off of the lease stick. You still leave it in place, but you grab the first thread coming off and you tie it to your first thread, pulling off the tape. That's why I use the tape. It keeps them all in order. Otherwise, you might have threads crisscrossed. Now, when I tie them on, I usually don't set this down, but I will for a moment to show. When you tie them on, I just do a simple little overhand knot. That's just enough to pull it forward through the heddles, through the reed, and getting ready to tie on for the new batch. Okay, the first one's done. I can just kind of lay it to the side. Now the second thread, again, corresponding with the lease stick. The first one was on the first stick, the second one's on the second stick, because this is just a simple 2-harness threading. So I pull off the next one, slide it down, oops, tie it up, and put it to the side. Now I grab the third thread, and keeping in mind my pattern, sometimes I print it out and tape it up in front of me if it's a complicated one, but this one's pretty easy. I know how it goes. Oh, and that one I didn't tie very well, just because, of course, I'm trying to film this. I'm usually pretty good at it if I'm not shaking in front of a camera. I got to get better at this. Okay, here's the fourth thread. And so on and so forth until you complete each section. It's nice when you do it section by section. That way you absolutely know it's 24 threads. If for some reason you ended up with 24 up here but only 23 down here, it means you still have one stuck down here somewhere alongside of a peg that didn't get lifted forward. So you have to go back and find it. Okay, I'm going to finish this up and not bore you all the while doing it, you know, on film. But I'll show you when I'm almost to the end, and then when I pull it through, and how easy it is by using a dubbing warp and preserving your previous threading. We'll catch you in a little bit. Okay, I'm reaching around the back, peeling this up, bringing it to the front. Make sure all my strings are in a row and that all 24 of them are here. Holding it in my fingers. Grabbing the next one off the least sticks. Incidentally, those least sticks I put in at the very end of my last weaving while everything was still under tension. Lift harness 1, slide in a stick behind the heddles, and then lift harness 2 and put in another stick behind the heddles. Or if you have a 4 harness loom, just lift for plain weave, you know, like harnesses 1 and 3, and then 2 and 4. And that way it gives you a perfect lineup of the threading of each one in a row, whether it's under or over on the least sticks. And you can take your threads off in order, one at a time, like I am here. Each time, this one was the last one, so now it's this one. Each time you grab the next one. And you tie on accordingly with the threads in your hand, making sure you never twisted this when you took it off. So everything is flat and coming off in the same direction. So it's either harness 1, harness 2, harness 1, harness 2. You just wiggle it over a little bit. And there we go. I'll kind of pull these down, pull the next one out of the way a little bit so you can see how this is going. And these are all tied on. Okay, everything's all tied on now, and it's time to remove my least sticks. I just kind of bungeed them up into this spot to make it hold up, excuse me, high enough to do my tie-ons. Take off some of this tape. And now on this side, pull off this tape. There. And now we can pull out the least sticks. Some people leave them in even when they're weaving. I don't care to. There we go. And now it's time to pull it all forward through the heddles and the reed. Okay, now I'm pulling the warp forward to get the knots up close to the heddles, and then I will gently ease them through the heddles and the reed. Okay, now I'm pulling it through to the front, through the heddles, back here on the harnesses, and through the reed, just a few threads at a time. And then all the new colored warp will be up here, ready to be tied on and used again and woven into rugs. So I'll finish this up and start tying it on to my front beam. Okay, as you can see here, I'm bringing through each section, pulling it so all the pieces are evenly tensioned. I call it milking it. And I'm tying onto my front cloth beam. I just tie the first part now, then later on I go back and forth until everything's evenly tensioned, all perfect. But this is how I'm taking each of those bouts that I pulled through from the rear, and I'm pulling them up to the front. Bringing them down, splitting them in half, and doing the first half of a square knot. Like I said, I do the second half later. Once I'm sure everything's evenly tensioned, going back and forth and back and forth. There we go. Okay, everything is now all tied up from the back beam, pulled forward, through the string heddles, through the reed, and it's right here up in the front, all tied on, evenly tensioned on the front cloth beam. The first few rows are just some rag fabric to stretch it out, but gives you kind of an idea of the pattern. The next 3.5-inch section is woven header for a hemmed rug, because I said I liked hemmed rugs rather than fringed. And my header is made out of 4 strands of the denim blue warp that I wind them onto a shuttle and weave for 3.5 inches. Then the next section is the denim itself, and I have shuttles wound up of denim fabric. Here you can see my striping pattern. And now I'm ready to weave some denim rugs. I have a tub full of denim balls here all ready to go, and probably about 6 more out in the garage. So it's time to get to it. And it's a snowy, snowy day in Wisconsin in the Northwoods. They said we're having a blizzard come through later. So it's an absolute perfect time to be inside and be weaving. Hi, today is Let's Unroll the Finished Rug Day. Yay! I love to do this. First, I'm going to take the tension off. I finished the second rug and I did about the last inch with diluted Elmer's school glue and let that dry overnight. So that way it doesn't unravel on me until I get around to sewing the hem on the rug. So, first thing I have to do is advance this a little bit. So this stuff here is long enough to tie knots. Let's see here. What are we doing back here? It's getting a little tight. There we go. Okay, I want to be able to tie some knots on these to prevent the strings after I cut them free from accidentally sliding through. We don't want that. So here we go. I'm going to cut these off about every 4 inches or so. Stop and grab these threads, tie them off, because you'd hate to have to re-thread all the heddles in the reed again. This is always the exciting time to unroll the finished rugs. Oh, I missed one right here. There we go. And these I'm just doing like in a little overhand loop so I can pull it apart again later when I tie onto the beam to start again to the front cloth beam. It's just a matter of flip it over, pull it through, but not all the way. It's good, I'm cutting just along this edge. There we go. Ta-da! Okay, now that's secure and it won't accidentally get unthreaded. So the next part is, make sure I release this break on the front beam. We'll get this out of the way. And now it's time to unroll our finished rugs. All the way through to the end here. Now, I weave along with a tape measure that lets me know what length I'm at. It's pinned at the beginning of the rug. I've learned if I don't unpin it before I cut, I've accidentally cut through a couple of my tape measures. So, now we're ready to cut it free from the cloth take-up beam. And again, when I started this rug, I also rubbed diluted Elmer's school glue during the first inch or so. Prevents them from unraveling until I have a chance to take them to the sewing machine. And I have my grandma group, my grandmother, on my dad's side, I have her old Singer sewing machine that is definitely heavy enough and strong enough to weave these headers. My headers or hems are folded once and then again to make a nice folded hem on my rugs. And then when I sew them, I sew along the outside edge, up the side, and the inside edge. So it makes a complete rectangle around the hem and prevents it from rolling up or kinking. They tend to lay flat better that way. Some people just sew across like a regular hem, but I go all the way around, all 4 sides. So here's the denim rug, all denim. And the second one I wove here has denim. I'm going to take off this tape measure also, with some little glints of gold and red plaid fabrics and glints of blue. Let's see, they're both pretty big rugs. I think I'll lay them on the floor. So here we'll fold it over at the hem. So here we go. Here's just a loose string. Okay, here's the one in all different colors of denim. Just kind of randomly put on there. And here's the one with the little bits of other fabrics blended in. Both of them are about 50 to 60 inches long, and I think they're about 33 or 34 inches wide. There's those two. And also, before I rewarp that in those colors, I had done this pretty one for spring. So again, all of these need to have their hems done like so. So those are the 3 happy rugs that came off the loom these last 2 weeks.